And welcome to FTB Sports. Yet again, another exciting weekend ahead of us. On the Facebook group, like us, please subscribe, share. It's a group with lots of humour, lots of banter going on. And not for the faint-hearted, but what the hell. Life's like that. We're going to kick off. We're going to talk about the weekend's football. And I thought about presenting. So does that make me FTB's Jeff Stelling without all the Botox? Have you seen how much Botox Jeff Stelling used? I'm Jeff Stelling without the Botox. I reckon he's had a face tuck and all the stuff. But anyway.
You can be. I'm right.
Do whatever you want, Ian.
I'm Jeff Stelling without the Botox, yeah? So, right, bring it on. There's no Thompson and Merson here, but, or Letitia, but let's give it the best. First topic, chaps. Wayne Rooney appointed manager at Derby today. I think it was a 2.5-year contract. They've recovered a little bit. There's not fantastic history of, ex-top players. And I have to, it gives me a bit of a shudder to call him a top player, but I'll call him a top player. He was wonderful at Everton. He was really good at Everton. I respect how good he was at Everton. As a top player at Everton, but there's not a great history of managers making it in the game. It's interesting. I've seen Steven Gerrard carving his way through, Frank Lampard struggling his way through, etc. So, Mr. Prostitution himself, Mr. Aficionado of old grandmas, is he going to score? Is he going to be more successful at Derby as a manager than he was in all the dirty down and out places of Manchester with a few grannies? Solo, give us a shout.
To be fair, since he taken over Derby County, they've been a lot more steadier, I would say. He's now, I believe, if I'm right to say, he's only had 2 defeats in his last 6 games or something like that. I can't remember who he beat, but they beat a team 4-0. They were 3-0 up at half time, won 4-0. So I think, to be honest with you, will he make a good manager? I'm not sure. But he's got the opportunity now to showcase what he can do. So I believe just give him time. And I think he'll be okay. He'll keep Derby up because if I'm right to say, Derby's like 19th or something like in the league. So give him time and he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah, well, speaks a man, with an ex-player managing his club, etc. Okay. Sam, Glenn Hoddle, he was, legend as a player. He's legend as a manager as well, to an extent at White Hart Lane. Any chance for Rooney? He's not quite as bright as Glenn, in my opinion, but what do you reckon?
I've got a very different opinion to Solo. I don't know what his credentials are as a coach, what his credentials are as a manager previous to him rocking up at Derby. I know obviously his footballing career, and if we speak about his footballing career is a stellar career. Everybody talks about could he have done more for England, but he's a top English goal scorer. He's appeared in numerous competitions, European Championships, World Cup finals, all the rest of it. So as a player, fantastic. Nobody can argue with his goal scoring record as well. As a manager, he's probably a little bit different than the likes of Stevie Gerrard and Frank Lampard. I know that they did a lot of stuff with the youth setup and all the rest of it prior to that. I'm not sure about Wayne Rooney's credentials earlier. Has he just turned up at Derby as a bit of a player coach and starting to learn on the job this season? If that's the case, it's a tough gig. Where they are in the league, it's going to need a lot more than just, Wayne Rooney shouting from the sidelines or Wayne Rooney inspiring these players to say, look, this is me and I've come in, this is what I'm going to do. It takes a lot more than that. Once you get over that initial bounce for someone like Wayne Rooney, who is a stellar player, you've got to get down to management. And management is a completely different ballgame.
No, I think you're right. Proof will be in the pudding, I dare say.
See, you're saying though, with it, I know, I understand everything you're saying, but I think part of it, the deal, I reckon, when he signed from MLS DC United, I think, to be honest with you, that would have been part of it, where he would sign as a player manager, as a player coach, because that's what he signed on as. And with it, to basically say, right, if the manager go, you are going to get the job. So I believe that's what the agreement might be. He might be doing. Go on.
But I wondered about that. Let's say, the idea of becoming a manager doesn't just dawn in. You wake up and think, I'm going to be a manager. When he arrived at Derby from MLS, American football, He must have thought, my time's running out. I fancy going into management. He must have known before he went to Derby he fancied being a manager. Did that influence his behaviour at Derby? Did that influence him behind the scenes? Did he do everything he could help the previous manager? It's just a challenge.
Okay, so this is where having done coaching and having managed, albeit at grassroots level, the two are completely separate things. Coaching a team is different than managing. If he's installed as a manager, there's a whole lot of other responsibilities that come on board with a team. If you're a struggling team, that's even more pressure on. As a coach, you coach the players. As a head coach, you coach the players. You still have to front up in the interviews and all the rest of it, but they're two very separate entities. So you've got really good managers, but not necessarily do a lot of the coaching. At this moment in time, you could look at someone like, I don't know, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who's, I guess he's the manager of Manchester United, but he doesn't do the coaching. So Alex Ferguson was another very famous example of that. There's the more modern approach now is to have a head coach and he deals with the on-field antics as such, and somebody else deals with the off-field antics. Mikel Arteta is now installed as a manager, having been a head coach. And you can see the toll it takes when things aren't quite going your way. You know, you have to front up, you have to come into these things and say, right, this is what we're planning, this is what I'm doing. You can't just be in the background as a coach and say, this is how I'm planning to play the team. You've got all the other things to deal with. And I think that's where a struggling team, as Derby are at the moment, it might be a bit more of a challenge than, let's say, he may have anticipated. I don't know, but this is my own thoughts.
And good point you say there, Sam, because I think if I'm right to say, Leroy Rossini, he's basically the coach at the club. So obviously Wayne Rooney is going to be the manager. He's the coach there. He's been there for a while now as well. So I think he understands the club. So you're right with what you're saying. He's going to be just picking the team more or less.
Well, maybe Wayne Rooney will sell a few more shirts in the Far East than Leroy Rossini might do, and he might look better on the marketing material. Just of course, everyone needs the finances, but hopefully, if he's in, what we'll see is if he's inexperienced, which he is, and if he has a degree of humility, he'll probably try and surround himself by really experienced other coaches and players. I always remember, like when Kevin Keegan was a young manager, he just made it. He had Arthur Cox in behind him, helping him and giving him that level of background. So if he's going to plan that, interesting. Adams has just texted in, as I knew he would. He's just said, he said he has a great foundation. I assume he's talking about David Moyes to learn from. So hopefully he can kick on. I assume kick on rather than overhead kick on. Never forgive it for that. But I knew Adam would have a bit of an opinion. I have no idea his foundation to learn from. No, you got me there, Adam.
I think what Adam probably saying as well, you got to remember he had Louis van Gaal there as well, Ferguson at the club, so he would have learned. You got to remember as well, he's a player who did his coaching badge, passed his coaching badge at 29.
Like I said, you can pass your coaching badge as early as you want.
Yeah.
The actual reality of it is he's in a relegation battle. This is his first job. He has no experience of a relegation battle. He has no experience of actually managing, coaching a team of any sort of level, particularly even championship level. So the jury's out for me. If he saves them and he keeps them up, that's one step. But there's a lot more steps than that.
Of course there is, yeah. But I've got to say, though, two of his best goals ever, for me, is against the overhead kick against Man City.
Yeah.
And I've got to say the goal against West Ham from his own half.
Yeah. No, hey, he was not a bad player in his day.
Great player.
He was not a bad player at all. Competitive, etc., etc. Gave everything for England. More than Paul Scholes did, because a couple of fans said you're a ginger, so he retired at 27. But, he gave a bit more than Mr. Scholes did, pretty much.
Yeah.
Can we move on to the...
yeah, of course.
Okay. Okay. First game, lunchtime. Quite a few managers don't like lunchtime, Jurgen. On Saturday, Wolves versus West Brom. Wolves, Jimenez, God, I saw that scar on his head on the photographs in midweek. It really didn't look good. Boy, that looked bad. And he's a good-looking lad as well, so I hope he grows his hair and he's safe and he's healthy. But that worries the world when you see that sort of thing. Yeah, and looking a bit impotent, Wolves against clear my throat, West Brom. And, we talked about it before we went on air. When I was at uni, I used to go and watch West Brom. I love the Baggies. It was the days when Ron Atkinson was the manager and Laurie Cunningham and Cyril Regis and Brendan Batson. I love that team. I have a fondness for the Baggies. But I don't have a fondness for owners of a club who will get rid of a manager who really brought them up the Championship and trying as hard as he can to play football like Slaven Bilic and gets a really fighting draw with Man City. And okay, you've got that goon Allardyce waiting in the wings to come in and play kick and rush football to try to come in the league and sign up a couple of Dad's army to keep them in. Whereas it was interesting. I was checking out the Championship. 1, 2, 3. Oh, Norwich, Swansea, and Bournemouth. Interesting. The teams got relegated, but they got relegated playing really good football, trying the hardest. I fear for the Baggies. I fear for the Baggies if they go down with Allardyce. Thoughts, chaps? Wolves versus West Brom. Down with the Baggies. We're going down with the Baggies.
You want to take it away, Sam?
Sure. As a game, Wolves versus West Brom doesn't strike me as being an excitement. It looks like that's, as you rightly said, the way West Brom are probably going to have set up or will set up for this game is going to be, as Sam Allardyce says himself, you keep clean sheets, you've always got a chance of drawing the game. At least you don't lose. That attitude, where they are in the league, I don't think it's going to be able to get them up the league much further. Wolves, again, another team that's not doing fantastically well at this moment in time. They're probably looking for a result. This one is just going to be a battle of who's going to stick in there the most. And what I say by that is, which team's going to decide that who's going to have the ball. It's probably likely to be Wolves going to be on the front foot. Sam Allardyce will set his team up in a certain way to defend that. And if they can nick something on the counter, if they can nick something from a set piece, so be it. The important thing for West Brom is that they have to stay in the league. Have they got the right manager to do that? Well, history tells you that he is the right manager to keep somebody up, but I don't know if this is probably a step too far in terms of Wolves. In terms of West Brom staying up. It might just be a step too far. I think the teams above him are better, and because of that, I don't see them surviving. If I look at this game as a one-off, I'm going to just give it Wolves 1-0.
Wolves 1-0. Any thoughts? Quite a lot of rumours in the press this week. A bit of Mendes agent talk possibly about the Wolves manager in Chelsea and aspirations finding. Why would an agent talk about a manager in the middle of the season looking for another club? Any thoughts on that? Does that upset you?
I don't know if Solo wants to start on that.
No. Okay, we'll throw it back to Solo in a sec. What's your thoughts on that?
I just think you're going to get rumours at this time of the season because it sells. There's not much going to happen in January this year because of various circumstances, but we are still going to have to do something to sell. This is a selling game. Football is a business, and as part of that business, they have to try and sell it. So you've got agents, you've got probably players, you've got all kinds of people involved, the media, all the rest of it, who maybe whip up some sort of story to get things sold. That's how it is. The way that the world works now is we are very much, we want a story, we want something to kind of, that's it, we want to, and then go and look for it, click on this, do this. I just don't believe there's going to be much happening at all. And whether or not this is just another one of those rumors, it's just part and parcel of it, given we're in January as well.
And often they talk about players. I've never really heard an agent touting a manager around it. It's always been weird. Solo, thoughts? Wolves.
So my thoughts for Wolves West Ham. Again, Sam, 100% on what you're saying. It's one of them games. It's like a game, isn't it, really? It's almost going to be a dull game, boring game, I believe. Wolves at the moment are a striker away from getting back to competitive. Also, a defender as well. West Brom, it's a job too big for Sam Allardyce, I think this one is. I think he's going to get relegated with this, or he'll be sacked before they get relegated. I just think as well, if Traore is fit, which I doubt he's fit for tomorrow's game, I'm going to go against what Sam said. I'm going to say West Brom's going to sneak in a 1-0 win. I just think they will, because I was watching them against, say, Everton the other day, and they just didn't look up for it, did they? It's almost like nothing. They didn't have rubber to green at all. So I'm going to say West Brom just sneaking it 1-0. When we're talking about managers going to other clubs, there is also rumours about Avram Grant going back to Chelsea as advisory to Frank Lampard. So again, you are going to get these rumours going around. Whether or not they're true, we don't know. But I honestly can't see him going to Chelsea this season. Well, this season, if anything, he will go in sort of the summertime.
Avram Grant, though. Let's get it real. Avram Grant to come in and help Frank Lampard.
Correct.
I don't know what he did as a Chelsea manager anyway. He didn't strike me as being the person that I would. I know there was a lot of talk about Avram Grant, that he had other attributes as opposed to his coaching abilities. I don't think he was very good. He got lucky. But if you're at Chelsea, you can kind of be in that position, given the riches that Chelsea have, and do all right. You know, you can do all right given what they've got. Let's see if Avram Grant was at somewhere like West Brom, whether he'd have the same sort of CV. I don't think so. Frank does need someone alongside him, but I think he needs someone of a lot better quality than someone like Avram Grant. That's a personal opinion, but I don't see anything in him that would strike me as being, oh yeah, if you bring him in, that's going to shoot us right up the table. That is, nah.
Yeah, no.
Maybe it's a psychological thing, a kind of father figure. You know, I know, hey, Royce is old as the hills at Palace, but him and Ray Lewington, I got to smile. Ray Lewington must be 65 and he wears shorts every game, doesn't matter what it is. And I see the two of them working together as a partnership. And to be fair to Sam Allardyce, he always brings Sammy Lee with him. There's a partnership there. And sometimes, you know, what I would say from that room, it looks like Roman Abramovich. I mean, you know, he does love the club, and he wants Frank Lampard to do really well. He's trying to help him. He's trying to, you know, maybe take some of the pressure off him, some of the stress. But when I read it, I thought, yeah, if I own the club and I wanted to, you know, help a lad that I've, you know, I say a lad because Roman Abramovich must have known Frank Lampard when he was in his early 20s. If I wanted to help someone I thought was, you know, almost a son to me to an extent, I'd probably want to bring in a little bit of a, you know, mentor, a little bit of a father figure to support him. That could be right, Sam. Maybe Avram Grant, he doesn't really have the perfect CV, but he just might be that kind of sounding board, calming influence.
Yeah, and that's right in what you're saying, because I believe that him and this is Avram Grant and Roman Abramovich have a very good relationship. He's, you know, quite close personally with him. But if you're going to bring in a footballing person and you had the names and you gave me, right, you've got the choice of Avram Grant or you've got the choice of Gus Hiddink. In terms of their CVs, they're incomparable. So I would be looking at someone like that who's also been at Chelsea, who's also done the job, who's also done caretaker roles and has come in and supported. I don't know what he's doing now in terms of, I'm not trying to sell Gus Hiddink to Chelsea, but I'm just saying, you know, if I'm making decisions at this top level with a club that's spent that much money, I'm wanting results. So I'm going to bring in the best I can. Is Avram Grant the best? No.
You got guys like Glenn Hoddle, you know, massively experienced. You know, could he be a good mentor to someone like, if you're the Derby owners, you know, just think, okay, we've got Rooney right, but do we need to get a really good bassman? We've got a lead singer, I need a bass. And maybe Avram Grant's the bass for Frank Lampard to be lead singer. Who's Wayne Rooney's bass? You know, it's just... Anyway, moving on, shall we? Moving on. Leeds against Brighton. Oh, come on, this has got to be end-to-end football. I love Graham Potter at Brighton. You know, he wants to play football like Bournemouth did, like Swansea did, like Norwich did last year. I love the fact that, you know, they're not afraid to play football. And, you know, I watched Brighton play Man City the other night, and they really gave it some. And I was troubled all the way through the second half. And, you know, City had waltzed past some crazy guys wearing red the other night. And yet Brighton made their task far more difficult. I have respect for Graham Potter. I hope he stays up. I think he's a great English manager playing exciting football against, God, I don't know how to describe Leeds. I don't know. It's almost like the wacky races of Premier League, isn't it? It's like, but it's beautiful to watch as a neutral. What do you think is going to happen? Goodness knows, eh? It's going to be like the playground back in the day. They're going to be.
Yeah.
Solo, shoot first. Back in the day, playground, kick and rush, right against Leeds. Got to be action packed, isn't it? Wow.
You want to go, Sam?
He's asking you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay. I'm trying
to alternate here, chaps.
That's right. So Leeds Brighton tomorrow. It's going to be a mouth-watering game, I think. Absolute mouth-watering game. Bielsa against Potter. And I'm telling you now, this is going to be a high score. It's going to be a high score, but it's going to be a high score draw. I'm going to say 3-3. And the reason is because Leeds United do not stop. They do not stop. The way they're set up, my only issue with Leeds United is they don't know how to keep a lead. That's my issue with them. Now, I believe if Brighton takes the lead, they almost shut up shops, but they still will get you on the counter-attack. But I think Leeds will go in the lead first. Brighton will come back, and I reckon it'll be a 2-2 or a 3-3 score draw. It's going to be end-to-end. It's going to be a watermouth game.
Yeah. If you've got little kids and they want to watch football for the first time, or you're a neutral and you just want
to be honest with you, Bielsa is just another level. When I look at this manager, I just think, wow, he's phenomenal. Phenomenal manager. And for where Leeds will stay up this season. Leeds will finish mid-table easily this season.
Yep, that's entertainment. Yeah, it's wonderful. I love it. That's what makes football fantastic. Bielsa, Leeds, compare with, what's it called? The Damned United. You watched the movie, yeah, where Brian Clough goes back to Leeds. And Leeds were an incredibly successful club, but well hated throughout the land. Yeah, they were hated, and now they're a fraction of success, but they're loved. Everyone loves to watch them. I think it's joyous. Sam, what do you think?
I agree. It's likely to be on paper an entertaining game. You've got two teams who do play football. Brighton, and I know one of these stats. They always throwing these stats out. Sheffield United, I think it's Brighton who've dropped the most points from winning positions. I think Sheffield have dropped 12 points and Brighton 11, and then it's us on 10. So that's why I understand that is. So that's why I know that stat particularly. What does that suggest to me? It suggests to me that there is potentially some good players in that Brighton team, that Brighton squad, because they can obviously go and take lead. Looking at them when they played City, very good game. They were in the game. City were dominant, but it wasn't a domination that it was a camping on Brighton's penalty area. Brighton were in the game as well. What they have to do is now cement results, and that's the biggest thing in the Premier League. A game against Leeds is an ideal opportunity to get 3 points. And the reason I say that is if you watch how Leeds play, they do not change. Hence the reason why they've been turned over by certain teams who go out and play a certain way against them, because of the effect that they are going to man mark. They are going to chase all over the place. So tactically, if Graham Potter has anything about him, if he sets up in the right way, they should win the game. They should win the game, because I think they've got enough players, enough quality, having seen them played against the likes of City, to think that they can do it. Now, it's whether or not their players can keep that lead with a likelihood of Leeds always coming at them. So I'm going to go with a high-scoring game, but for me, I'm just going to err on the side of Leeds, and I'm going to say 3-2 to Leeds.
Okay. So basically, the Potter magic is not going to quite work, and Leeds are going to win. Yeah?
I don't think so. But like I said, they're an impressive team. I do like them a lot to watch.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be wonderful. It's almost like a heart monitor, where I looked at Wolves West Brom, and it's like the heart goes like this, and then you see Leeds against Brighton, and you go. So, on to the next game, and we're up at a blip on the heart monitor. West Ham Burnley. Are we staying up on the bleep, or are we coming down? Sam, stay in the zone. Go for it. West Ham Against an improving Burnley, never write Sean Dyche off. They're getting better.
Right. So West Ham have got good players. West Ham have got good teams. They are pretty much a decent attacking outfit. Although people think about Davy Moyes as being a defensive manager, counter-attack, Everton sort of, he knows what he's doing. If he's got the right tools, I think he gets the right style of play out. But Burnley, they're the type of team that make anybody look bad. They can make the likes of City or Liverpool or United, and I'm even going to throw Spurs in there, although we've been looking bad recently anyway. So the likes of the way that Burnley like to set up, particularly away from home, it's not going to be an easy thing for anybody to get anything out of them. So it's probably likely to be a game of few chances from that perspective, and the odd goal here. If I'm honest with you, it looks like a draw, and it's probably a dull draw at that. 0-0. I'm beyond 0-0.
For me now, I don't know if you guys know the stats, but West Ham is actually, since Sullivan and Thingy has been in charge, they're looking for their 50th striker since they've been there at the club. So
They've done a very good job of buying players.
No, they're not. So I think because obviously back in the days, it was a case of they look and bought players. Oops, we lost Ian. Hold on for him to come back on. They're basically used to do this whole thing where they go out and they thought they could buy players, but now it's turned out to be the decision, especially when it comes to strikers, they're not so good on buying strikers.
Yeah, I agree. I just think with the West Ham always have good players, you know what I mean? And they've always got players that seem to then move on somewhere else and really flourish. I don't know what I can only see this as being, if we're just talking about this game in particular, Burnley are going to tie up West Ham and make them look horrible, and it's going to be a horrible game, and we're not really going to see much of both teams, my opinion. But I just, that's what I'm saying.
I think as well, Ben Mee, if I'm right to say, if I see his stats, Ben Mee is looking for his 100th league goal. So again, that would be quite nice if he could get it. But as you said, it's going to be one of those games. It's going to be boring. I've gone for
Ben Mee
West Ham.
scored 100 goals.
Is it Ben Mee?
He cannot.
It's not Ben Mee. Who's up front for them?
If you talk about Burnley, it's going to be Woods and Ashley Barnes.
Ashley Barnes, apologies. Ashley Barnes, 100 goal.
Okay.
So West Ham, I think they're going to squeeze it 1-0. I can't see it's like what Ian just said. It's going to be one of those games. It's going to be dull. It's going to be a boring game. But David Moyes will get the job done.
Yeah, okay.
I just think it is. Where's Ian? Is he coming back on? He's cut off completely.
Let's look at the next game then.
Yeah, we can do, and then fill him in. Fulham, Chelsea.
So Southwest London derby.
5:30 kickoff.
Very, very close neighbours. Literally in the same area, pretty much. Fulham, having watched them up close against Spurs the other day, they're, and always a bit of a cliche, their league position kind of, betrays the type of team they are. They've got some talented players. I like how they've been utilising Loftus-Cheek in the game against us. They had a 3-5, say a 3-5-2 system. It's more like a 3-4-1-2, where they had Loftus-Cheek just in that one position, number 10. But he had a free role. He literally was licensed to go and do what he wanted. And he's a talented footballer. He's got some real ability. Lookman, when he came on, I'm not sure why he wasn't starting. Was that an injury?
That was a surprise, though. That was a shock he didn't start.
Yeah, he's another player that's got really something about him, and I like the look of him. I think they've got some good pieces in there, and I do really think that this is going to be a tougher challenge for Chelsea than maybe a lot of people are thinking. It's got a bit of a spice to it because it's a very much a Southwest London derby. Chelsea not in the best of form at the moment, although they had a good victory in the FA Cup. But take that out of the equation. Looking at how Fulham, I think they've drawn the last 5 games, so they're not very easy to beat. and Chelsea haven't been firing on all cylinders, as the phrase goes. But saying all of that, Chelsea need the victory. Both teams do need the victory, but Chelsea, if they've got any aspirations to be in and around that top four and even put in a title challenge, need to win this game. They can't afford a draw. So I'm going Chelsea 2-1 on this.
Good. I'm back. Sorry about that. I was talking about the heart monitor. I think my Wi-Fi just had a cardiac arrest. I'm back in the game, and I'm well happy to be back in the game because, credit to Fulham. That draw against Spurs in midweek, that was really good. And again, a great English manager like Graham Potter, Scotty Parker, we got to want him to do well. They believe in the beautiful game. They believe in playing football.
What you've got to realise with Scott Parker is they started off very attacking. We're going to try and play our football, and their results in the early part of the season were not good. They were getting battered left, right, and centre. He changed his approach. He's changed something. He went to a back three, so they're basically playing. When they played us, it was a 3-5-2. You can kind of say that is like a 5-3-2 out of possession. And what they did have, they still had a good attacking threat about it. So setting up as a back five, people think that's going to be very defensive. It doesn't have to be. It all depends on how you utilize your wing backs and how you utilize your midfielders. What they did was they had, as I was saying to Sola, they had Loftus-Cheek in a bit of a free roll. He kind of did what he wanted to do, picked up the ball in lots of different areas. They had two players up top, which was occupying our centre-backs all the time. And then they had wing-backs going up and down. When you play that system right, very, very attacking, and it also gives you a lot of solidity at the back, which is what they've done, hence the reason why they've got them draws. But this might just be one draw too far for them.
Maybe. I mean, I thought he was a bit of a legend at Spurs, wonderful player at Spurs. He went to Chelsea. And I think he said that in the middle of the week was that Mourinho at Chelsea didn't fancy him, didn't play him at Chelsea after a 10 million transfer. I wonder if he's got a bit of a feeling there that, I want to prove him right. Maybe.
But
so go for it.
I think, to be honest with you, I know you're saying Chelsea, they do need to prove themselves because it's going to come back to how much money they spent in the window. But obviously, we know players got to settle in to the Premier League. I don't understand why Frank Lampard is not playing Giroud week in, week out. I don't understand. I don't get the logic of it. He's their best striker and he's proven he's a goal scorer, but he doesn't start for them. He sits on the bench and then come on the last 10, 15 minutes. Makes no sense whatsoever to me. But I think Scotty Parker, you got to take your hat off to him. He's been phenomenal. He's been absolutely great, Scotty Parker. Ian's there. I was in two places. Hold on. Ian, there we go. Add. So which one am I taking? I've got you twice, Ian. Which one are we?
I'm going to turn this one off. Apologies, I'm just trying to get back on the laptop. I'm done.
That's fine. Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's right.
Second cardiac arrest of the evening.
So basically, for me, I'm going to sit there. I think Scotty Parker is doing a phenomenal job. I did tip Chelsea and Tottenham to win the league this season. Obviously, it's not going to happen. I'm going to say 2-1 Fulham.
2-1 Fulham, I like it.
I'm going to say 2-1 Fulham. I'm giving Fulham this game.
Go Scotty Parker, go beautiful game. If it is 2-1 Fulham, back to you, Sam. If Solo's right, what happens to Frank?
That's very, very, very good question.
But what happens to Frank?
And I can only go by what the reports and sort of stuff. It's like they're almost they've given Frank a bit of a remit to change the playing personnel in terms of this younger approach. They've given him the money to do that. He's brought in some real exceptional, talented young players. He's bringing through the youth in Chelsea that have already been established. But Chelsea have to perform. I don't think their finances are built on not being in the top four and not competing in Europe. I know they've got a billionaire owner, but he's a businessman. He doesn't give away his money. That's why he's a billionaire. He don't just say, oh, here you go. I'm just not going to get my investment back. So if he spent this amount of money, he's going to want a return on his investment. At this moment in time, is he getting that return? No. And that's what, just to get to your point about Giroud left Arsenal. He wasn't really a star at Arsenal. Giroud's not getting better. He's, 33? Is he?
34 now.
34. That's one of the reasons why he's not starting every week. He might have a great game. He might have a great 2 games, but you can't rely on Giroud, particularly even in his pomp. He was never starting for Arsenal every single week. Why is he going to start at Chelsea when they've got Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Ziyech? You've got also Tammy Abrahams. The list goes on for Chelsea, and the younger players, talented players, Hudson-Odoi. For me, just to answer your question, Ian, if they lose, I wouldn't be surprised if Frank wasn't the manager afterwards.
But just a thought, all around Europe, the 30-plus strikers are the main factor. Real Madrid, what's his name? Benzema, he's 32, 33. He's holding them together. He's winning the league for them at that time. At Bayern Munich, you've got Lewandowski. How old is he? 31, 32?
Lewandowski is about 32.
Yeah, he's holding it together for them.
With all due respect to Giroud, he's not in their class. He's not in Benzema's class, and he's nowhere near the level of Lewandowski. He is a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's a French international, top scorer for France.
Starts for France all the time as well, doesn't he?
You give me that choice of him and Lewandowski. You can't. I don't even think them two are comparable.
I'll take a Lewandowski, thanks.
Oh, all day long. 100%. Not even a question for me.
Hey. Solo, you've got a new striker who's 34 years old. Reflect on that.
But again, Giroud is no Cavani. He's no Cavani.
He's no Cavani.
Yeah.
Cavani's a different level. That's a different level.
Yeah.
It's a different level.
But should he take a leaf out of Sam Allardyce's book and say, actually, there's nothing more important than the next game. Okay, it's not about the future. I've got to stay as the manager. We have to get some credibility. Is that about winning the very next game playing Giroud? Because
he will. He won't. I don't think he will play Giroud. He will bring him on like he always does in the last 15 minutes. But I don't believe he will get sacked. I honestly don't believe he'll get sacked. If he gets sacked, it'll be the end of the season. It won't be now.
Okay.
They will go with the process. They'll go for the process now.
We'll move on. Well, at least, hey, Frank Lampard's having a second child, so at least he's performing somewhere.
Low blow.
Anyway, right. Coming to the evening game, I always find this strange. Saturday night, the football, we've almost become European over all the decades. Remember, you'd watch some European games, some Spanish game on a Saturday night, and now we're playing on a Saturday night. I'm thinking about the heart monitor as well. We went flat for Wolves, West Brom. We went right up. We kind of were a bit uncertain, but not bad on West Ham, Burnley. Fulham, Chelsea could be quite interesting. Leicester, Southampton, I find them incredible. The performance is just unbelievable. Again, I can come on against City. They should have had a point to get. They were good and they've stuck around really hard, beating Liverpool. But then you've got Leicester, who seem to have turned a corner after a sticky patch. Actually, I'm going to be a Democrat here. Call me Joe Biden and all that. Who'd like to go first?
I can hit off. So Leicester versus Southampton. It's going to be a good game. I'm not going to deny it. But again, this game could be going either way. It could be a high score or it's going to be a 0-0 draw. That's the way I'm looking at this game. Tomorrow, you got no Danny Ings. He's out with COVID. So he ain't going to be playing. Now, Vardy doesn't start all the games at the moment for them. But people keep looking at stats and saying about Man United, about how many penalties United have and stuff like that. The team this season had the most penalties is Leicester City with 10. And a couple of them should never have been penalties. But listen, at the end of the day, it's VAR. We got to accept VAR and what VAR is given the decisions are. So, again, I'm going to look at it. If there was a team to win it, my heart's telling me I'd love Southampton to win it, but my head's telling me it's Leicester. And it's going to be a 2-1 win, and Vardy will score a penalty.
Sam, go on. Leicester, Southampton.
Yeah, this has the makings of a good game. I can, in terms of Southampton's performances this season, in terms of the way that they've played, they're up there in and around the the top half of the table. They're up there in and around that top. Potentially could go. Where could they go if they win this game in terms of the league position?
I think third.
They're currently 7th on 29 points. If they win that, obviously they go up to 32, depending on what the results are with the other games. So they are going to be in and around the top 4, 5-ish if they can pull this victory off. Danny Ings is going to be a big miss. Leicester have a very, very good team, a very good squad, young players, and they've got that experienced goal-scoring head in terms of Jamie Vardy. Now, he is one player who is older. Again, he is...
He's better than Jury.
He is better than Jury. 100% he's better than Jury. He's more consistent as well than Jury. Danny Ings, though, I think is going to be a big miss for Southampton. I don't think Southampton will change their approach in any way. What I've liked about Brendan Rodgers this season, he has changed his approach depending on who he's played. So when he's played against the likes of what the so-called bigger teams, he's set up differently and played off the counter-attack. I don't think he will necessarily... No, I tell a lie. He probably will play off the counter-attack because Southampton are a team that like to have possession. And if he does that, I think it plays right into Leicester's hands, because when Southampton played Spurs, we gave them a bit of a beating because they just kept on trying to play their football, kept on coming forward, leaving massive gaps at the back. And for someone like Jamie Vardy, that's a fantastic bit of exploitation of space. So score-wise, because Danny Ings is not in, I'm going to say 3-1. 3-1 Leicester.
3-1 Leicester. Interesting. It's interesting. You're right. I was listening to that. Sorry, the heart monitor got me again. Leicester and Spurs are a bit similar in their strategy, their stance. And to be fair, Leicester have been like that for quite a few years. When they won the league under Ranieri, they were a defensive team who struck on the break, and they're still playing like that, which is great. I think you could be right there, Sam. I think that's really wise. That Southampton could be susceptible to a hit-and-run team like a Spurs, like a Leicester. Interesting thoughts. So, but for the neutrals, we're saying, I think what we're saying on Saturday is Wolves, West Brom, bit flat. Leeds, Brighton could be ferocious. West Ham, Burnley, yeah, interesting. Fulham, Chelsea, could be many questions answered. And Leicester and Southampton, that could be a good Saturday night. That could be a really good Saturday night.
Get the popcorns out. Get the popcorn out.
Yeah. That could be a good Saturday night entertainment. Well, there you go. Right, moving on to Sunday. The first game's postponed. Villa postponed a game with COVID. And again, interesting to see that effect. We skated over it. But, if you've got a player like, I think Danny Ings is out with COVID, isn't he?
Yes.
So Southampton, with a fairly shallow squad, they lose their lead striker to COVID. What effect does that have on a season in such a shallow squad? I worry about that. I worry we'll look back on the season. We'll be able to explain the top 4 with which teams were worst affected by COVID, and we'll be able to explain which teams went down. And I don't feel good or comfortable about that. I know it's life, and we have to keep the mental health of the nation really sound by football continuing. I'm definitely in favour of it because I think that the country is struggling and needs football. But I don't like the idea of looking back on the season and being able to explain it in terms of the COVID injuries. But anyway, let's move on. So early on a cold, very cold. We've got to remember this weekend is not going to be for the faint-hearted at all. It's going to be damned cold. Sheffield United up in Yorkshire. Spurs going to the freezing Sheffield United, who've just had their first win of the season. I'm only joking, Sam. I'm only joking, Sam. You're chomping at the bit. You're frothing at the mouth like a pal.
Well, I have got my preview show to do tomorrow anyway, which will go into more depth about that, myself and Mike, as part of FTB, as you already know. I'll be brief on this one. For us, and I've looked at and I've seen Jose's pre-match interview today, and he's right in what he said. And a lot of people might not agree with this, but Sheffield United are probably a better team than their position suggests, and they aren't. And his words were, they're not the worst team in the division, although they are in the worst position. That does bear out in what I was saying earlier about them losing the most points from winning positions, and that I think is 12. all they need to do is get it right. I just hope they don't get it right against us. They've already got one victory against Newcastle, though Newcastle aren't playing very well. So that wasn't really a surprise. I don't think in the grand scheme of things. It would be a surprise if they beat us, but they've got a good manager. They've got good players, not saying outstanding players, but good players. And because of that effect of having a good manager, good players, good organization, having been in the league, and they haven't panicked and sacked their manager, having only been on 2 points for X amount of time. That says a lot about the club. They do feel that he's probably the right person for the job, and that can only give the team and the manager and the coaching staff confidence. Now they picked up their first win. I just hope it doesn't mean to say for us, they can do it after they've played us, but certainly this could be the catalyst for them to really start pushing on and getting results. Do I think they're going to stay up? It's going to be really, really difficult, and I don't think they can. But can they perform well enough that they can show people that, yeah, maybe if they'd have got a better start, maybe if the luck was on their side, they could have been somewhere a little bit different in the table? Yeah, I just don't want them to prove that point against Spurs on Sunday. So I'm sticking. Well, I haven't even got my predictions yet, but I'm going to go with this prediction, and I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs.
2-1 Spurs. 2-1 Spurs. At least you're conceding Sheffield United will score a goal against Spurs.
And they will score a goal against us. Everybody scores against us these days.
God, Fulham scored later on. But you ever watch the movie When Saturday Comes with Sean Bean?
No, I haven't seen that.
He's a passionate Sheffield United fan, and there's a movie, I think it's probably from about 15 to 20 years ago, where there's this fantasy situation where he's this striker for Sheffield United, and I think they beat Man United in some cup tie, and obviously he scores the goal after various trials and tribulations of life. But it's a good football movie. It's not as good as the greatest football movie of all time. Sorry, digress for a moment. If you ever watched There's Only One Jimmy Grimble.
I've not seen that one either.
Oh, come on. It's like Manchester in the late 90s with all the Manchester soundtrack, you know, just all the Manchester bands of the 90s, really giving it some of the background. There's Only One Jimmy Grimble. If anyone's watching, you've got to check it out. Solo, sorry, I'm garbling on.
That's all right.
Sheffield United against Tottenham. From a neutral's point of view, what do you think?
So, yeah, we touched on obvious. Pardon?
Yeah, go on. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
So basically, for me, when I'm looking at it now, I'm looking at the Newcastle game, going back to that. Unfortunately, Newcastle is struggling with COVID at the moment. They've got about 3 or 4 players massively affected by COVID, and they're first-team players. So, yeah, that win against them was a bit lucky. They had a player, Newcastle had a player sent off in that game as well. Before leading up to the goal, there was a foul on the Newcastle United player before the Sheffield United player went down in the box. But again, like I said, VAR has given the decision, so it's a penalty. Now, for me, Spurs versus... Am I worried about Spurs? I'm not worried about Spurs at all. It's just the manner that at the moment they're not holding leads. And Jose Mourinho used to always do it at Man United, where he got 1-0 up and then he would just literally almost park the bus. Now, for me, when he first went into Spurs, the first couple of games, I thought it was a different Jose Mourinho, where he's playing this attractive football, and then all of a sudden now the season kicking in, and he's reverting to that. He did it at United, he did it at Chelsea, he did it at Real Madrid, and he did that Inter Milan. And it's almost like he don't take the shackle off some of the players with his style of football. But again, I've got to say, I can't see anything but a Spurs win. I know, Sam, you've been modest and saying a 2-1. I'm just going to whack it out there. Harry Kane and Song tomorrow with Dembele, 3-0.
Interesting. I tell you what, if Spurs score early and Mourinho parks the bus, I am going to boot the telly over tomorrow. I'm going to go mental. You know, you talked about it. You talked about Jose Mourinho, attractive football. So, I've wanted to say this. Solo, you're on your own. That's just aside. But if he scores early and then tries to park the bus and defend it for 80 minutes, I give up on Spurs. I'm sorry. Let's watch that. But yeah, I'm with you two guys. The bit is that I can't see Sheffield United scoring. I just can't. I love that Toby Alderweireld. I think he's a great central defender. Surely he's not going to let Sheffield United. Surely not.
Adam said 1-1. Or FTBSports said 1-1. We don't know who that is.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on. I don't know. There's some other game coming up after that. Do you want to forget that one and move on to the final game? But okay. There's some other game. And it's interesting. I was reflecting on Liverpool, Man United, and when you look at the country as a whole, just my opinion, there's a lot of people who hate Liverpool, and there's an awful lot of people who hate Man United. And I think there's a lot of people who kind of love and kind of have a soft spot for Man City, etc. And they're not kind of talking about City much at the moment. But I hope those two dinosaurs just fight each other out. It's like Tyrannosaurus Rex against Stegosaurus, isn't it? They're going to fight each other out until they're half dead. And then this, an attractive modern animal is just going to skip past them and go, dinosaurs, goodbye. Anyway, Liverpool, Man United. Sam, no solo. Go on. You want to go?
Well,
you want to talk?
Well, what can I say today? We did our preview show today of the game, and that was heated. And also, if people don't know, we'll be doing a watch along on Sunday.
Sorry, I'm putting my glasses on in case Adam text sends in at his very moments. I'm waiting for it.
We're doing a watch along as well. But for me, I'm a humble fan. I'm a humble United fan. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is coming for a lot of criticism. I'm a massive person who still don't believe in him unless he win the league. Then I'll say, you know what? I'll take my hands. Take my hat off to you. Well done. But I'm not confident with him. But at the moment, as a team, I've got to support the team, and the team is playing fantastic. Bruno Fernandes at the moment, he's been playing fantastic all season. One player that a lot of people, when I talk to people and I say, would you have them in their team? Would you do that? They were like, no, wouldn't have him nowhere in the team. Paul Pogba in his last 6 or 7 games has been outstanding for Man United. But again, his name is Paul Pogba. So no one really and truly.
Run that past me again. Paul Pogba, outstanding.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
I thought there was a Wi-Fi break again.
Outstanding he has been. And the problem is he's not getting no credit whatsoever. No credit whatsoever. Again, a lot of people criticize Martial. He does things for Man United that no one really and truly, like fans and other non-fans, don't realize and watch what he's doing on the ball.
Okay.
For me, they've been outstanding. Liverpool is the best team in the league by a country mile. They are the best team. They may have the injury. They are the champion, and they should be defending this title with a bit of grace. But whilst we're watching this, I'm looking on the FTB Facebook page, and I'm getting tagged in posts by a lot of Liverpool fans because Man United right now is top of the league. I'd never expect that to happen. And people are rattled. Fans are rattled. United are top of the league. We could be knocked off the league come by Monday, but at the top of the league. But at the same time, I'm enjoying the moment. I'm going to sit there. A draw. I'll take a 1-1 draw, but let's go for a 2-1 United win.
2-1 Man United. It's a little bit like, El Clasico. And I'm happy for you to actually... Sorry, Adam is writing. I thought he said excrement earlier, but he did actually use the word excited instead for this one. Ollie is the reason we are playing great. Let me just. Do I need my glasses for that? Ollie is the reason. Right. Okay. Moving on. Just a thought on that one. Right. Okay. Sam, come on. Balance the scales.
Are we finished with all this Man United gas? That's what I'm hearing. Okay. Both teams. You mentioned a couple of things. One, I personally don't believe Liverpool have the best squad in the league. I do think it's Man City. I don't believe Liverpool are that much better squad-wise than United. They've got probably more experience because of obviously what they've won. But if you look player for player, and when I go player for player, I look at what their attributes are. You've got as much pace up front as what Liverpool have. Take out someone like Maguire and obviously replace that with Van Dijk. There's your difference in terms of your central defender. The area which Liverpool probably have a definite advantage over you. He's probably in the fullback area, but centrally in midfield, you can't tell me that Liverpool's midfield are better than what Man United potentially could have. If you've got Bruno, Van der Beek, you've got McTominay's probably having the best season I've seen him have. You've got Fred in there. Just those 5 players. There's no way on earth that people can tell me that Man United don't have as good a squad, certainly in that midfield area, as what Liverpool. So take that all away. So this is what all the Man U fans are trying to do. Oh, we're only little old Man United. You know you're not little old Man United. You spent a lot of money. You've got all these players in there. You've got Bruno Fernandes, who's performing very, very well. You're getting results. Your performances haven't been fantastic. If you look at the actual results, they've been fantastic. The performances haven't. You are very reliant on Bruno, but you've also got a lot of pace to get you out of a lot of trouble. It's going to be very interesting, the approach of both teams in this game. And that's going to settle it for me. If Liverpool come out and really attack and go for it, I can see Man United picking them off, because I don't believe defensively Liverpool are up to the scratch at the moment. If it's a cagey game and it's going to be, someone trying to look to be very intricate and break things down, I don't know who's going to win it. For that reason, I don't think Liverpool are going to go for it, because I don't think although their home record is fantastic, I just don't think they've got the personnel at this moment to really go flying at Man United, and they don't want to lose that game. There is no way they want to lose their winning record or their non-losing record at Anfield to Man United, the last team in the world. Cagey affair, very tight affair, in my opinion, and it's probably going to have a couple of goals in it. And if it's going to be a couple, I'm going to say a 1-1 draw.
So you're going 1-1. Remind me, Solo, what did you say?
2-1. 2-1 United. I think it's going to be a 1-1, but I think it's going to be I'm going to say a draw. Let's go for the draw, because I know. Yeah, let's go draw. That's what I've been saying all week.
Don't stop. See? Where's all the gas on now? That's what I'm saying.
All right, then, let's go 2-1. Let's keep my 2-1. Keep my 2-1 then, Ian. Keep my 2-1.
Man United's humility is like saying the Venus flytrap is just a flower, isn't it, really?
I'm trying to be humble.
No, there's no need. Don't be humble. Just say it how you really feel.
Trying to be humble. A quick question, but I don't mind either of you to answer is, Jurgen Klopp, he seems to be losing possession of his marbles over the last couple of weeks. Pressure's getting to him, isn't it? And a manager that's meant to be this cool German guy seems to be wobbling all over the place. And also, Trent Arnold, the fullback on the right hand side. I can't remember. I was reading some stats the other day about how often he gave the ball away, and it was like a record amount. I mean, he was meant to be the most valuable player almost in the league, 100-odd million, best right back in the world. What's going on there? I mean, we're only in January, for goodness sake. It's not like they played in the Champions League during the summer or anything. What's all that about? Is that just excuses?
I'll let you do it, Sam, because you're neutral.
Trent Arnold. I've never really thought his defensive qualities were his stronger. And Gary Neville always says this, and when I listen to Gary Neville, he says fullbacks of the past, their job was to defend first. That's what they were supposed to do. If they could get up and attack, so be it. That was fun. That was a bit of a bonus. These days, we're kind of looking at fullbacks as being as part of the attacking threat, and a lot of teams create from the fullback areas, which what Liverpool have done. They don't have as much solidity in defence as they did last season because of the injuries at centre back. So because of that, maybe Trent's looking a little bit exposed, probably. I think he's still getting in them crosses, because Robertson on the other side is still getting in them crosses, but they do seem a little bit more exposed. Now, if you've got the likes of Jordan Henderson and Fabinho, who are now their first choice centre backs, and they're not trusting their youngsters at centre back, that tells me that they don't have enough quality in their central areas to really think that they can get through this season without the likes of Gomez, without the likes of what's his name? I've forgotten. Virgil van Dijk. Sorry.
Yeah, Van Dijk.
I just think they've just probably reached a plateau, where the players now aren't going to really excel anymore, and other teams are maybe catching them up. I think that has a little bit to do with it as well. Plus, we're in a strange time as well. So couple that all together, Yeah, I just think with Trent now, he's probably been found out a little bit more, and defensively certainly has been found out a little bit more.
Cool. Sam, again, really, really sensible things. I agree with 90% of what you've just said there. The bit I can't agree with is, you ready for this? Ready to play back? The tape said, I listen to Gary Neville.
Legend, absolute legend.
To Gary Neville. That worries me a little bit. For a sensible man, that's questionable. The other bit, quite interestingly, when we look at Robertson, England playing Scotland in the Euros this summer, hopefully, if it happens. And everyone thinks, England are playing Scotland. And then I look at some of the robust players they've got, Scotland, who could have given England a hard time. I look at Robertson, I look at McTominay, and who's the lad at Villa who's everywhere?
McGinn.
Kieran
Tierney as well at Arsenal. Don't forget him.
Kieran Tierney, you're absolutely right. And every time I go, he's pretty good. And he turns out to be Scottish, and I'm starting to get more and worried about the Euros. Because if those lads really have that kind of kilt mentality, and and they all think they're Mel Gibson, then maybe England should be a little bit worried. But hey, say what you want, Liverpool, Man United, but the whole nation's going to be looking at it. It'll get the best viewing figures almost of the year in terms of people watching football. And everyone will be shouting and yelling an opinion. And you know what? That's what football's all about. Love them or hate them. It's something that will galvanise. And I hope it all kicks off. I hope we get real handbag
just on that point, though, Ian, just on that point, I think what will make a difference, and I know we've been playing all season without them and probably a little bit longer, but imagine there were fans at Anfield. This game would be like on fire. It would be because this is the biggest Liverpool Man United game I've known for a long time, based on the league sort of form of both where those teams are. And if you had 40-odd thousand Liverpudlians in there, it would be some atmosphere.
Have I got 2 minutes for a rant? Solo, come on. Can I have rant permission?
Go on, have your rant.
Right. Okay. All right. Liverpool fans out there, the guys who went to Heysel and all that sort of aspect, you have no humility. When Man City played there in the Champions League, and the club went out there and told them about the path of the bus, and they bricked the coach, and they fired fireworks at City, and they never considered that Leroy Sané was also on the bus a year ago when the player got badly injured and whatever. You have no respect. Remember that disaster at Heysel. How dare you do all that to Man City and think that's all the spirit of the game, and then fireworks before the kickoff. And I know City left, but you have no respect. You have no humility. Liverpool, get over yourselves, behave yourselves, show some respect to your past, treat visiting supporters as they should be treated. Yeah, run over. Thanks. Sorry about that. I haven't forgiven them for that. I think they should be the last club in the world to brick a coach and chuck smoke bombs and attack another side. Sorry, but
that's all right.
I'm with them and all that. It's terrible what happened at Hillsborough and Heysel. It's absolutely shocking, and I just think everyone should remember that and just act with a little bit more grace. A bit more grace, lads. A bit more grace. Okay, moving on. God, I'm going to get some comments now. I'm going to get pasted on this Facebook page, but I don't care. Right. City Crystal Palace now. This is really weird. My girlfriend's out for the evening, and and I said, "Look, you've got to book me in Saturday night. I'm watching City Palace, and I've had a season ticket for Palace for the last 4 or 5 years. I've been living in London, but Man City I'm wedded to, and it is like your wife is fighting your girlfriend in a mud wrestling tournament, and." You want to you really secretly want the wife to win, but you don't want the mistress to get beaten up that badly in the mud wrestling. Anyway, on that subject. So Man City against Crystal Palace. Really interesting again. Palace played a day later than Man City. They've got a trace back to London. They've got a long journey up to the freezing cold to the Etihad Stadium, etc., to play Man City with 1 day less rest after what was. God, I think I wrote on the Facebook page, I gave up the will to live. That was the most dreadful game I've ever watched in the history of the Premier League. Yawn. Arsenal, come on, you're better than that. Palace played sound, but Arsenal just wakey. If I can give my view on this one first, I think City will have too much for Palace. I think City have the ability now that they didn't have early in the season to unlock a tight defence. When City again got played by Mourinho, by Spurs, and lost 2-0, they were at a low ebb in the season. They couldn't unlock the door to a very defensive, well-organised team. But I think City have moved on from that now. I think they've got more pace and more zip about the field. And I think they have the keys to unlock a bus parked across the goal like Spurs did for a period of time and sucker punched them twice. I think City will undo Palace. I'm not certain that they'll do to them what Liverpool do to them, but I think they'll put a couple of goals past Palace. Thoughts, chaps? Sam, you want to go first?
So going by City's results against Brighton, they do look more solid in defence. I'll give you that. They still obviously got the attacking players. They do control the ball well. Are they as potent without someone like Aguero in there? No, because he's one of the top 3 Premiership players of all time, probably in terms of strikers, most certain. Do they have enough to defeat Crystal Palace? Of course they do. What Crystal Palace have is a very experienced coaching staff, as you mentioned earlier, Roy Hodgson and Lewin as well in there. And they will set up in the right way to get the result that they think they can. I can see this being a tougher challenge for City than maybe the form might suggest, but I still think City will come away with the points. But they have to be wary because there's some very, very potent players that Palace have. There's some very potent players. And so for that reason, I'm going to go, maybe another 1-0 because I think City are good enough now defensively and they'll do enough to win the game. But only 1-0. I'm only going 1.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I agree with what you're saying. You know, without a potent strike force, Gabriel Jesus, what was Pep thinking of starting him down the left? I have no idea what he'd had at half time in his drinks, but you know, to bring him on and play him down the left, what? And without Gueye, you're right. And if City needed 3 chances to score last season for every goal, they probably need 10 now because of that lack of potency. However, with Kevin De Bruyne, you're going to get 10. So you're right. You get a 1 goal, maybe 2. Just wanted to add in there, I thought one of the fewest comments of the week was, I was reading some pundit talking about Emil Smith-Rowe at Arsenal, who I think is a wonderfully talented player and kind of reminds me a bit of Paul Merson a little bit, the way he plays and his socks down and all that sort of stuff. And they called him Croydon De Bruyne. And I thought that was quite funny. Okay, I'm on my own. What the hell? Croydon De Bruyne. Kind of likes it. Croydon De Bruyne. Double. No, never mind. Solo, go on. Bail me out.
Yeah, so with Man City, you're right with that. It's almost, look at Aguero. Aguero's not been in it. So I think because he's not been playing, it's almost, he's gone back. And all that money he spent on the defence, it's almost like it's working now. Because he spent over 400 million on a defence. And it only seems this season it's getting good. John Stone is looking a bit better than he have been. And I think he's sort of his game a little bit rather than being...
A bit better?
Yeah. Rather than him being rash, because in the past he was rash doing quite a lot of things where I was thinking, are you sure about that? Trying to bring the ball out from the back in that way he used to. Now I think his decision making is a lot better. With Crystal Palace, obviously we've got De Bruyne. We know he's a danger man. He's a man who makes City tick over, him and Foden at the moment. Foden, your top scorer this season with 4 goals. I'm sitting there thinking, really? That's because you're only winning 1-0. Because of how your defence is sharpened up. But my worry for Man City tomorrow is I watch Eze on the other night against Arsenal, and if he has sorted out some of the way he played, they would have been Arsenal quite comfortable. Because that young man is quality. Him and Zaha was on fire, but just the end product they didn't have against Arsenal. So I think, we're talking about 1-0. I think, again, my heart's saying 1-0 City, but my head's sitting there telling me that Crystal Palace might just nick it.
Oh dear. So it's going to be one fall and one submission each to the girlfriend and the wife, yeah?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna go City. City 1-0. I'm sorry, not City. Palace 1-0. Palace 1-0. Palace 1-0. 1-0 Palace.
1-0 Palace.
Yes, 100% 1-0 Palace. 100% 1-0. Eze to get that winner.
Against defense in the Premier League.
Yep, we'll do it. Conceded one less goal than Man United.
It has been done before when Andy Townsend scored that phenomenal goal 2-3 seasons ago when Palace beat City. Actually, I think it was 2-0 in the end. But that was a wonderful goal by Andy Townsend. Again, it's hard to see your wife get smacked in the mouth, but it was struggle to stand back and not applaud that. That was a wonderful goal. I remember that. Fantastic.
It can happen, and it will happen tomorrow for the first time.
Let's hope he saves it for United or Spurs or someone. But turn it on. But quick question for you, chaps. I was thinking about it. Sorry, I have a weird, diverse mind on this. Do you remember when City were managed by Sven-Göran Eriksson?
Yep.
Yeah.
Some time ago, that.
Do you ever remember the chant that they used to sing when Sven-Göran Eriksson had been caught out with
Arika.
And the City fans, I remember you used to sing it on the stands there when we stood, and they used to sing, Sven, wherever you may be, you are the Lord of Man City, and you can shag my missus on our city if you take us all to Wembley. That's one of the best chants. Anyway, sorry, I've lost the plot. Right, moving to Monday. Get the heartbeat monitor out. We talked about all-time highs. Could the patient be dead? Arsenal against Newcastle. Are we talking about like needing resuscitation here? Is what was that phrase? The parrot, it is dead. It is deceased. There is no life in this parrot. Arsenal against Newcastle. Who would like to go first? Anybody alive out there?
I'll take it.
No,
go on, Sam.
He's pining for the field.
I'm not going to sit there. I think every week, Sam, we've been moaned at to say we always bat Arsenal, don't we?
And why stop now? I will have to actually admit, I don't think Newcastle can.
They don't have enough.
I don't think they've got a good striker in Callum Wilson. They certainly have got an option in Andy Carroll. They have got players in there. They just haven't been getting the results. And Steve Bruce is a manager under real pressure, having lived up in the Northeast for a couple of years. I know what that pressure's like from the fans. Even though they're not in the stadium, the whole city will be talking about how bad they're doing. And that will get through to the players because it's such a local club that everybody knows everybody sort of thing. And the players won't be able to get away from that fact that they are, not performing. Steve Bruce is under a lot of pressure to get the result as well. They are going to probably play the most defensive that you'll ever see. Arsenal, they looked a bit clueless when they played Palace the other day. They are reliant on these youngsters. And there's only so much you can do with those youngsters if you haven't got the seniors around them to also contribute. And I don't see many of the senior players at Arsenal contributing that much. The likes of Aubameyang, the likes of Willian, Bellerin. There's a number of them that I just don't think are performing at the level that they should. Having said all of that, Newcastle are that bad at the moment that I can still see Arsenal taking this and probably by a couple of goals. It's 2-0 Arsenal, I'll go.
Yeah, it's after that midweek game on Palace, if you had to wish for an opponent to seek sanctuary or redemption, if you want to seek redemption after a terrible performance, you'd probably want to play Newcastle.
Just looking at their form.
Redemption.
Again, for me, I watched Newcastle versus Arsenal the other day in the cup, and that game was it was bad. It was terrible game.
You're right.
Then obviously I watched the Crystal Palace game, a bit of that, and they were terrible. But for me, Sam said 2-0. I'm going to go 1-0 Arsenal. Because again, like I said, they rely on the youth. They rely on the youth at the moment too much. And the problem is these youngsters, if they keep drawing and losing games, who is the senior player to step up, to put a hand around them and say, come on, guys, it'll be all right. We move to the next game. These guys are going to feel dejected. So for me, it's going to be a difficult one. Just a 1-0, because Pepe, 72 million. I don't even know why they've spent that much money on him when they could have bought Zaha for 42 million. So
there's obviously a number of reasons for that, but the thing about the youngsters, I'm not going to take long on this. The thing about the youngsters is it's not that they're not good enough, because of course they're good enough. They're very talented, but you have to take into consideration consistency. Consistency is what makes a really top footballer. That separates you from being good to being very, very good. You look at the likes of Messi and Ronaldo, who are the very echelon top type player, and their consistency is frightening. You look slightly lower down that sort of level, and you've got the likes of Lewandowski now. You've got Mbappe. You've got players like Neymar, who are again pretty consistent in their approach to games and their performances. Youngsters notoriously will have dips in form. If you haven't then got form in your more senior players, like someone like Aubameyang, he should be that player, captain as well, that you'd be relying on to show these youngsters this is the way it's done. And at least if you don't have a good game, this is how it should be done, and they can learn from that. I'm just not sure if they're learning that much from those senior players, because they're the ones who seem to be carrying Arsenal at this moment in time. That might change, and results do change a lot in football. And
to be fair to Arsenal, they missed Tierney. They missed him so badly on every week against and Martinelli. Neither were playing. Someone referred to Tierney the other day as the Scottish Roberto Carlos. I felt that was a bit over the top, but he is a wonderful player. If you can get Tierney, you can get Martinelli, Smith Rowe, and who's the other? Like Saka. He's a gorgeous player. He's just
very good player.
He's 19 years old, and you look at those two, Smith Rowe and Saka, and they're fabulous players. And Martinelli, I love those three. Tierney is a marauding left back. Like, for a Man City fan who I can't remember the last decent from left back we've had, but it hasn't been in the last 3 or 4 years. And you look at Tierney, you think, oh God, why didn't we sign him? He is awesome.
Good, but injury, isn't he?
Yeah, if they can get those four together, and some of the others have half a decent game, but you've got Lacazette and Aubameyang up front who must earn more than those four players added together. It just seems sacrilege. I don't get the Aubameyang bit. It signs a contract. I mean, how many Bugatti Veyrons can you buy? I don't know, but I don't really like the BBC, but I did enjoy. I enjoyed the FA Cup commentary because you had Ian Wright, who's just fantastic. He is so funny. Ian Wright and Alan Shearer and Gary Lineker, and they were really giving it some boys banter, because they actually all admitted the game was dreadful. They were bored out there.
It was a terrible game. About
which of them had won the FA Cup, and Wright was going, "Well, it's 2 for me," and Lineker was going 1 for me, and Shearer was hiding under the table. And I just thought the banter was really good, if the saving grace would be, if they won't be on, unfortunately. I think the game's probably on. If it's on Monday night, 8 o'clock, it'll be Sky, won't it?
Yeah.
God, please don't put bloody McManaman on, and don't put that imbecile Neville on, and Keane at half time. No, God, with that combination of those three and Arsenal Newcastle, I'll be giving up I will have the will lost. I'll have lost all the will. That's like terrible. Anyway, thank you, chaps. That kind of takes us to the end of the weekend. We have the heartbeat monitor going up, and it will go up Saturday. It will go up on Liverpool against Man United. Let's take it back. Remind us of the time. 4:30 on Sunday afternoon. Liverpool against Man United. Like it or not, hate them as you will, everyone's going to be watching that. Come on, Sam, you and I will be watching it, and we'll be looking for the entertainment value. But it's going to be one hell of a game. It's going to be 100%. What football's all about. It's going to epitomise what we all love about the game. So thank you. Any last thoughts, chaps?
No, just hopefully obviously
come on United.
powers that be can keep football going safely. That's the biggest thing. Make sure that we can.
100% agree.
As you said, it's something that we need to be able to have in our lives at this moment in time to have some sort of pleasure. As football fans, I think.
So thank goodness for the beautiful game, the saviour from COVID. Thank you very much. Cheers, chaps.
Okay.
Have a lovely evening, everybody.
You too.
See you on the weekend.
All right, cheers.
Bye.